Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Forestry, with a budget of $13.2 million in the 2021-2022 financial year, is focused to achieve optimum results that will further assist our forestry industry to fulfill its increasingly important role in our economy, while creating business opportunities, increased revenue for landowners, creating new and sustained jobs based through a legal and administrative framework that is efficient and transparent. Mr. Speaker, in just the first 2 weeks of the new financial year, the forestry sector has generated $14 million in export earnings. The bulk of these earnings were from pine chips exported by the Fiji Pine group of companies. Other products included sawn timber from Mahogany, rain tree and native species exported by various companies in the sector. The Ministry's role has been to improve the way it facilitates private sector activity, like improving export license within 24 hours, while also monitoring the company's operations to ensure that our natural resources are being sustainably managed for the long term with minimal impact on our environment. These improvements in facilitation are in line with government's belief that the private sector is the engine of economic growth, and the government agencies need to continue to improve the facilitation process, including removing red tape and reducing bureaucracy. I am most glad that this is already happening with the Ministry of Forestry, as is evidence with how the forestry sector is responding positively. In the Fiji Pine Group, Mr. Speaker, in addition to improving our facilitation process, the Ministry of Forestry is strengthening its working relationship with all stakeholders in the forestry sector. While there are a number of small, medium and large-sized businesses involved in the harvesting, processing and value-adding, I would like to highlight recent developments involving the Fiji Pine Group. The group recorded an operational profit of $35.6 million. $35.6 million, Mr. Speaker, in the 2020 financial year, compared to $24.9 million in 2019. Despite the fact that 2020 was a very challenging year due to COVID-19, the group realigned its strategies and delivered a record profit that was 10.7 million higher than in 2019. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, the Pine Group is now debt-free. This followed a lump sum payment of $2.2 million to government in February this year to fully settle one of the last loan accounts on the group's books. To put it into perspective, Mr. Speaker, in 2008, the group had a debt stock of $63 million. $63 million in 2008. And in less than 14 years, they have cleared the debt stock through commercial discipline, focus on removing corruption, focus on transparency, and investment in technology and its people. On top of this, Mr. Speaker, despite the challenges of COVID-19, the group continued to pay dividends to the pine landowners. Prior to 2013, landowners never received a single cent in dividend payouts. Not a single cent, prior to 2013. In 2013, the group started with a modest payout of $350,000. Since then, Mr. Speaker, and up until last year, the group has paid out $24.6 million in dividends. This year, Mr. Speaker, the landowners will receive another $6 million, making it a total of $30.6 million. This $6 million will be paid despite the economic slowdown. This year's dividends will be paid in 3 installments. The first installment of $2 million was made in April. The second installment of another $2 million will be made this week on Thursday, 19th August. And the final payment of $2 million will be made in November. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, from 2013 to this year, the total dividend payout equates to $30.06 million, and every last cent of it has gone straight into the hands of the pine landowners. Government did not take a single cent. Apart from these dividends, the landowners received land lease payments and a stumpage rate of 12%. All these returns to the landowners are unprecedented since Fiji started planting pine about 60 years ago. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the group has already secured markets for its wood chips for next year. This gives the group the kind of certainty that it needs to plan and operate efficiently. What this means is that the group will continue to support the landowners, the workers, and the many contractors who rely on the industry. It also means that the industry will continue to generate economic activity and export earnings. Pine restocking and sustainable forestry practices are the key focus areas of the Pine Group. The group targets to plant 2,000 hectares of pine every year, which equates to around 2 million trees a year. Recently, the Pine Group set up a brand new nursery at Rasa in Lutoka with a capacity of 1 million seedlings. This has come with an investment of $350,000. The Pine Group, Mr. Speaker, continues to look at ways to diversify its business. In accordance with this vision, the group has embarked on setting a brand new sawmill in Rasa to process other species of logs like rain tree, mahogany, and other native species. This will involve a total investment of $15 million, and the group expects to commence operations from the second quarter of next year. With this investment, the capacity to process and value-add resources domestically will increase substantially. These two will create economic activity and also generate increased export income. From a business diversification perspective, Mr. Speaker, the Pine Group is also the largest independent power producer in Fiji. Through its biomass power plant, the group has produced about 93.71 gigawatt hours of electricity to the national grid since 2018. There is potential, Mr. Speaker, to contribute more to the national grid, and the Pine Group will continue to explore options with Energy Fiji Limited to realize this. In terms of corporate social responsibility, the Pine Group contributed $1.3 million for tropical cyclone Nyasa rehabilitation works in Vunulevu, including materials for house repairs for the pine landowners. The Ministry of Forestry and Rural and Maritime Development are helping repair and rebuild damaged homes and houses, and more than 70 have been completed as we speak. The Pine Group aspires to serve its landowners better. Through open and regular consultations with the landowners, there is now unprecedented bonding between the industry and the pine landowners. The group shares information in an open and transparent manner, something that was missing in the past. Excuse me. Mr. Speaker, as part of the new relationships, the Pine Group has embarked on the restructuring of landowner-based institutions like the Fiji Pine Trust, the forest-based companies, and forest-based trusts to bring about more accountability and transparency. And it is doing this with the help of the Ministry of Forestry. Mr. Speaker, Fiji's mahogany plantation is considered to be one of the largest planted forests in the world. The government intends to see that we capitalize on this reputation and realize the full potential of Fijian mahogany. Mahogany Industry Development Act in 2010 was introduced to bring about a transparent, efficient, and results-oriented management for the mahogany industry. The mahogany sector has its governance structures, which is critical to ensure transparency and ensure maximum returns for all stakeholders. As has been highlighted in this Parliament on numerous previous occasions, the mahogany sector prior to the Act was rife with corruption, undervaluing of the mahogany assets, and with only a selected few reaping the benefits. In fact, despite having this large valuable asset, the Fiji Hardwood Corporation did not make a single profit until after 2007, not a single profit. It had a burgeoning debt stock, and unscrupulous business people and some landowners were creaming money on the side to the detriment of majority of the landowners and upright businesses. There was hardly any value adding. There was no licensing regime. The Act has led to the reorganization of the mahogany sector, with efficiencies being gained in FHCL, massive reduction in its debt stock, and the setting up of the Mahogany Industry Council, of which I am the chair of, Mr. Speaker. Government's philosophy in managing natural resources like mahogany is to achieve a win-win, no zero-sum outcome. That is a win for the economy, including the landowners, the licensees, the contractors, the value adders, and a win for the environment. We already see this happening in the pine industry. Mr. Speaker, the Mahogany Act also promotes the branding of Fijian mahogany in the international markets. And this is where our efforts to certify our mahogany forests will play a key role. Forest certification is currently in progress. Forest certification has been delayed because of international travel, which has restricted visits by certifiers from abroad. But we are not just waiting for the borders to open. Mr. Speaker, FHCL is liaising with the Fiji Pine Group, which is already sharing its forest certification experiences. Certification has given Fiji Pine access to niche markets in Japan, in Australia, New Zealand, China, and other markets. And while we are working towards forest certification for mahogany, we are also supporting the industry to grow. In 2020, total mahogany log production was more than 21,000 cubic meters. Fiji Hardwood Corporation Limited is working with its partners to double the harvesting and exports this year. While all sectors have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, Investment Fiji reports that Fijian mahogany products were among the few of Fiji's top export commodities to continue to find welcoming markets, especially in the United States of America in recent months. Mahogany's main commodity right now is sawn timber. Value adding is also being done. This includes production of interior and exterior flooring and decking, furniture, panel products, and guitar components. There is also further potential in other mahogany value-added products like interior and exterior furniture components, door components, cable drums, and artifacts, which are more capital and labor-intensive. Government will continue to promote value-adding opportunities in Fiji to ensure greater returns from our mahogany and more employment opportunities for Fijians. Government's tax initiatives and duty concessions are also intended to encourage the industry to import value-adding machinery while encouraging exports. This includes the export tax deduction as announced in the 2021-2022 budget. Fiji Hardwood Corporation, Mr. Speaker, is working with its stakeholders not only to increase value adding to our mahogany, but also importantly to replant 1,250 hectares annually and to ensure that harvesting operations are conducted according to Fiji's harvesting standard, which guarantee the sustainability of the resources and protect the environment. Mr. Speaker, government is not only working on improving its facilitation process for the private sector, it is also progressing Fiji's efforts to enter into carbon trading. The RED Plus Readiness Project with the Ministry of Forestry is helping with this process, which will make Fiji become the first small island developing state in the world to venture into carbon trade. This, Mr. Speaker, follows the signing of the Emission Reduction Payment Agreement, the EPA, between government and the World Bank in January this year. A $2 million budget for this financial year will be devoted entirely to completing the preparatory work. It is programmed to support the development and enhancement of key systems and processes to strengthen institutional arrangement that will ensure the full and effective implementation of Fiji's emission reduction program. These developments and improvements, Mr. Speaker, include $480,000 for strengthening the forest governance and management system through the development of district-level integrated land use plans for the 20 districts targeted under the emission reduction program area. The land use plans for 10 districts have been completed at the cost of $220,000. The development of the remaining 10 plans will be pursued in this new fiscal year. Work on this also includes the development of the safeguard information system, which is designed to monitor and report on the level of compliance with the mandatory safeguard standards required under the emission reduction program. Mr. Speaker, $1.1 million for updating and improving the forest information database and system, which includes the continuation of the National Forest Inventory and carbon stock assessment work. This work was suspended in April due to the COVID-19 restrictions, and plans for this new fiscal year are to deploy and recommence work on Honolulu if the conditions allow. This work also includes the enhancement of the Ministry's capabilities through the National Forest Monitoring System, which will immensely improve the Ministry's monitoring, reporting and verification capabilities in preparation for the reporting obligations under the emission reduction program. $420,000 to roll out the emission reduction program, national awareness campaign. Given the current COVID-19 restrictions, the allocated budget will be used on digital media through the various virtual platforms, which are accessible to the general public. Preparatory work, Mr. Speaker, also includes a national awareness campaign to ensure COVID-19 safety. The awareness will be done largely via mainstream media and online platforms, including the Ministry's website. The Ministry will physically visit communities in areas where COVID-19 movement restrictions allow. Under the Emissions Reduction Program payment agreement, Mr. Speaker, Fiji is expected to establish 37,282 hectares of forest as carbon pools for sequestering 2.5 million tons of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. In return, Mr. Speaker, the World Bank will make result-based carbon payments of $12.5 million American, US, approximately $26 million Fijian dollars. The Fijian government is expected to report to the World Bank 3 times, with a final reporting period set for December 2024. The climate change and forest bills, Mr. Speaker, since 1993, Fiji has recorded an increase of 6 millimeters in sea level annually. The rapid rise in sea levels and the resulting saltwater intrusion that stems from the increased ferocity of coastal floods have made portions of our island nation uninhabitable. The Fijian government is ensuring that it embeds climate change mitigation and adaptation, as well as resilience initiatives are embedded in all its national and sectoral plans and strategies. The draft climate change bill, which has undergone about 2 years of public consultation, I hope the NFP has participated in that process, will be tabled this week, and we aim to have it approved as an act of parliament before the next COP in Glasgow. The Ministry will progress work on the Forestry Bill to ensure it complements the soon-to-be Climate Change Act. 30 million trees in 15 years. Mr. Speaker, the National Tree Planting Initiative of 30 million trees in 15 years is one of Fiji's main platforms towards addressing climate change, because trees are scientifically proven to be among the best nature-based solutions for capturing carbon. Fiji's tree planting revolution started in January 2019, and we have planted over 7.6 million trees and mangroves in the past 31 months. This huge achievement, Mr. Speaker, is due largely to the public interest. Let me say that again, over 7.6 million trees and mangroves in 31 months. How have we done this, Mr. Speaker? It's just not government which cares about this campaign. Members of communities in rural areas and the outer islands, in peri-urban and even urban areas who have available land, no matter the size, are joining the campaign. And any member of the opposition is welcome to join, double count those saplings for themselves if they wish. Better yet, they are welcome to plant a tree themselves, join this campaign, and help us make Fiji the greenest path of paradise anywhere in the world. Mr. Speaker, there is the growing consciousness in the Fijian mind of the environment and of nature as a whole. Fijians are not only concerned about the impacts of climate change, but they are actively participating in finding solutions. And they know that planting trees, the right type of tree at the right place and at the right time, is crucial towards addressing climate change. The tree planting initiative is also part of Fiji's green recovery following the devastation to our national economy caused by the recent series of natural disasters and COVID-19. So the 30 million trees in 15 years initiative aims to address climate change, enhance ecosystem services and biodiversity, and help with the economic growth through carbon trade and conventional means. It is a holistic approach. The Ministry keeps track of the trees planted through the use of technology, such as GPS, drones, and ArcGIS software. It works closely with the Ministry of Communications in developing and tracking the tree planting program. The Ministry has also developed a dashboard that the public can access on the Ministry's website. It reads www.forestry.gov.fj. The dashboard currently shows 6.4 million trees. These are the figures that the Ministry has validated. The remaining 1.2 million trees constitute raw data that is currently being validated, and the figure will be updated as the numbers can be verified. I wish to thank the members of the public, Mr. Speaker, as well as the various organizations that are planting trees, such as youth and women's group, faith-based and civil society organizations, and companies, both within and beyond the forestry sector. Climate change is a real and present danger. Addressing climate change should continue to be a national and global priority. We have only one planet Earth, and we all need to work together to protect it. A budget of $1.9 million has been allocated to continue Fiji's tree planting campaign. Mr. Speaker, trees and forests are an important nature-based solution for mitigating climate change and reducing damage caused by natural disasters like droughts and floods. So it is vital that we take stock of this natural resource. The cost of managing the National Forest Inventory is approximately $2.7 million. For the new fiscal year, $1.05 million has been allocated to recommence work on Vunulevu. The 2021 NFI began in late February on Vitilevu. By April, 117 plots out of a target of 1,200 plots were assessed. The immediate plan, Mr. Speaker, at that time was to deploy the work to Vunulevu. This was not possible, of course, due to the growing number of COVID-19 cases reported and the suspension of the inter-island maritime ferry services. The plan to deploy the NFI work to Vunulevu is now being revisited, and we expect to begin by October. On completing Vunulevu, the work will move into maritime islands, and at the end, the assessment of 51% of the targeted area will be completed. The NFI assessment on Vitilevu will be conducted strategically and based on the COVID-19 situation. It most likely will begin with assessment of forests in the Western Division before consideration is given to the forests in the Central and Eastern Division. We hope to complete the national inventory by September 2022. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, we can be pleased with the progress the forest industry has made over the last several years, and obviously with the continuous improvements in policies, sound legal framework, transparent and open processes, commercial discipline and engagement with all stakeholders, including with our landowners, domestic and international businesses and partners, we will be able to do better for our economy and for the benefit of all Fijians. Thank you.
Aka.